Hey, how's it going? Hard Talk Radio at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm your host, MrDeadman, and with us tonight is Damien Lee. Damien, how does it feel to have an evil-sounding name?
Well, growing up, it wasn't an evil-sounding name. I'm actually named after a Catholic priest of the that the family knows, so it's not actually that much of a cool name, to be honest. But yeah, it kind of works for the horror genre. So
it does. If it doesn't work, then there's something wrong with that. If it doesn't work, then you can always use the pen name Stephen King, Stephen F. King, Stephen M. King. And we're just talking before we went live that there's an imposter, Stephen R. King. I don't even know if that's the guy's real name, but it's hilarious.
If it sells books, doesn't it?
Yep. And it's spelled Stephen King the same way you'd spell it, except there's an R. And I don't even know if it's the dude's name. And even if it's not, who cares? Let Stephen King deal with that issue. And he has enough money. Anyway, Damien Lee, I start off with one question with all my guests, and that is, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Damien Lee. I'm a writer of sorts. I like to dabble in there every now and again. I've written a few short stories in the past. They've been published in varying different anthologies. But recently I've gone down the actual novel route, and I've published my first novel recently, The Virus, which has been well received so far.
Oh, that's good. It's your first novel, and people are enjoying it. Hey,
yeah, feedback's been good. Loads of messages of support. People asking me to make when's the sequel coming out? Is it going to be a series? Basically assuming things before I even consider them myself. To be honest with you,
I'm digging the look, by the way. I see we got like a Unabomber convention over here.
I did have the hood to kind of match it, but it's getting too hot in here. It's too hot now, so I couldn't keep that up.
Wait. Are you also a meth dealer? Are you
only on the side?
You're not gonna be taking on my territory, are you? Because that's not good.
You stick to Texas. I'll stick to the UK.
All right, that's good. I got that space meth, some good shit from us. This trailer parks near the Space Center. That's where it's about. Okay. Anyway, so how did you get? Well, first, why hard? You could write all other genres, probably make more money doing it, but you write horror. Why is that?
I don't know. I think horror comes more naturally to me than other things. I've been a horror fan for years. I mean, I started living in Whitby in the UK. We've got the connection to Dracula and all that stuff going on. There's local folklore that my dad used to tell me different ghost stories growing up. So I have always been. I grew up around horror, really. Naturally, the first novel I read was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which for a child was a hard read. I've got to admit, but I mean, from there it just all evolved from there, and it was just the genre that stuck with me. So it just felt natural to write in that genre, really.
Hey, that's cool. So it's a natural fit for you. You sort of gravitated towards it, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. I mean, from there, I just went for every book I could get my hands on. That was horror, really. So I started naturally with King, the likes of Dean Koontz, Richard Lehman, Clive Barker, Sean Hudson, British author. I mean, read all these different works, and I think that they all have played a part in influencing the way that I write to a certain extent of, different bits and pieces. They all work differently. They all have their own style, and I think I've just adopted my own style, but picking up on what I feel has worked for each of them. But yeah, like I say, that's all I've really read is horror, so it just felt natural to gravitate towards that genre, really.
Okay. Cool. And for you, is there a certain comforting element when it comes to horror? Are you scared of it? Do you embrace it? Take it on? It's like part of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think with horror you get the chance to have the variety. You're not stuck to a certain trope like with romance novels. someone's going to meet someone, they're going to fall in love, live happily ever after, all that carry on. With horror, you've literally got anything. You could be delving into the mind of a psychopath, you could be going into the intricate psyche of them and so on, or you could just be trying to escape a killer condom at the end of the day. It could be anything, couldn't it? So there's a big variety in horror that I think works well.
Right? Because, I mean, I can't think of any romance novel that's a psychological romance novel. And then again, I haven't really read any romance novels, but a romance movie that's psychological. Can't think of that unless we're talking about what is that one? Dang it, Girl Interrupted. That maybe that one. I don't know. Or Gone Girl. What that one too? That's not a romance.
Can't help you with that one.
That's just.
I've got to admit, I haven't read many of them myself. So it's just based on the tired tropes that were, the stereotypes of each one that I'm tending to rely on here.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see it in romance and that kind of paranormal genre anyway. You see them starting to delve into horror. The likes of Twilight, for instance.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen when they start going to like psychological stuff, or let's say Twilight when they go into like supernatural stuff. It's going to become like a little bit of horror-ish in a way, but you sort of soften it with this weird love stuff. Like Twilight's pretty much a girl who wants to fuck a dead guy and fuck a dog. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it. Now you let a horror writer write that book, and that would be completely different to the one that actually came out. But I mean, we do it as well. If you think about, we've got spin-offs like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, haven't we? So we do it as well. So
yeah, and that's done intentionally too. I mean, that author had what's his name? He had fun with that stuff, and he sort of worked. Didn't he also do what else did he do with zombies? We could start with Pride and Prejudice. I thought he did Civil War with zombies. I got to look at what he did here. It's 6:00 in the morning, guys. Okay, all right. And as far as writing goes, I mean, why write? You could do other things. I mean, with your time, you could play music. You could be in a band.
Well, I mean, I do flick between all of that. So I'm a musician as well, but with lockdown, that kind of put a stop to all of that, basically. But I think with writing, I've been writing things since I was young. Like I said, I used to try and mimic the likes of the people like Bram Stoker and King, and that. I'd read a book and I think, what's really good. And then as a kid and a teenager, I'd try and replicate that kind of thing, and write my own novels. And it was only I think I had like a moment of realization. I was sat in college in one of my classes, just falling asleep naturally. And as I was dozing off in one of the lectures, I started remembering all these old stories that I've written, and I remember thinking to myself, that, what, that they're quite good. I could put a decent spin on that. It was like a light bulb moment. I thought, what, I actually want to go be serious with this and actually try and get these books out there. So that's what the first one I've done was, like I say, The Virus. I've got plenty more in my head. It's just trying to get them down onto a page or onto the computer.
Okay, yeah. So you had that itch. I mean, with writing, you're able to express your thoughts and get your vision of what you think out there. I mean, in a way, for me, in some ways, and definitely for me, writing was a way to kind of like decompress and kind of channel all of the shit I feel about what's going on around me. It's sort of like just channel it through with the characters and different scenes and different little allegories and shit. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always a case of I use nightmares a hell of a lot. You'd wake up in the middle of the night and you think, bloody hell. I mean, good nightmare. Yes. Most people would think, oh God, horrible nightmare. I need to try and recover. For me, do you know what? Good story idea. Let's write that down. I have a notepad at the side of my bed. Well, it's a phone now, isn't it? With the notepad app. But back in the day, it was a case of notepad side of my bed, write down this idea, go back to sleep. So a lot of the things that I'm going to write, or I think the outlines of the books that I've written already, they are based on just nightmares. For instance, The Virus that came about from a dream I had where I was working at the hospital at the time, working in the local hospital, and for some reason I had a dream where I was on the ward, and then looked around. All these zombies came pouring in, and I just thought, shit, what do I do? So my idea at the time, God knows why, was to get on a desk, push the ceiling tiles, the foam ceiling tiles aside, jump up, grab a pipe, pull myself up into the pipes. And I think, okay, yeah, logic, I like that. Everyone else is getting eaten below me, and I'm sat in the pipes just chilling. And that scene actually did work its way into the virus at some point. Whether it's a logical scene or not is another matter. But yeah, that kind of scene works its way into the virus. And it all stemmed from there, basically. The idea behind it was, I just thought to myself, at the time I hadn't read any books that were centered around the British interpretation of the zombie virus. It was all American based, what Americans would do. And you guys over there, you've got your heavy artillery pretty much everywhere. You can buy it in your corner shops, can't you? Your weapons and so on.
I do live in Texas, so I mean, if a zombie outbreak were to happen here, we're pretty much good. Like, the zombies aren't going to make it too far.
It's the safe place to be, I guess. But I mean, over here, with the tight gun control, I mean, we do have guns, don't get me wrong, but the tight controls, I thought it would be a different perspective to see how we would cope. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got spades and hammers and your bog standard tools to fight them off, maybe a bat. We haven't got any kind of ready access to automatic weapons or anything like that. So yeah, I just thought I'd delve into that. It was only after I published it and I started reading works by other people, I realised, you know what, people have done that a lot. There's quite a few books out there that have the British perspective, but there you go. I've written it now, so there you go. It's out there.
But I like how your nightmare became part of this book. It fueled this book, like that scene. Okay.
Yeah, that tends to be how a lot of them are. I've got outlines for literally about 20 books outlined, different plot ideas, and they were all from waking up in the middle of the night thinking, you know what, that was quite a good book idea. So yeah.
Okay. And since we're talking about the book right now, The Virus, tell us a little bit about this book. Like what's going on? Is it we'll start from there. Tell us what's going on with the book.
Yeah, so The Virus follows two main stories. You've got one from the perspective of a prisoner. He's a murderer. He's away for life. He gets his second chance when the zombie virus hits, the prison's overrun, and him and a few other criminals use that opportunity to basically escape the prison while it's on fire and all hell. So yeah, I mean, the idea behind that one is to go away from the stereotypical hero that comes out to save the day. He's a guy who's away for murder, and he's a narcissist, doesn't care about anyone but himself, and he'll happily say, he says it in the book, that he murdered someone and he was happy that he did it and he would do it again. Basically, he doesn't show any remorse. And I wanted to try and create that dilemma for the reader in a way. Do you really want to get behind this guy, but he's the only one that's there? And it was more of a realistic scenario, I think, in that, at the end of the day, if the zombie virus did hit, you can't say all the good ones will survive and all the bad ones will die. It's a case of, he's alive, live with it. And that's kind of counteracted with the other side of the story. I've got a nurse who's based in the hospital at the time. When the virus hits, you initially think it's some kind of like food poisoning or flu outbreak or something. And then it all just, the shit hits the fan and she's caught in the middle of it, and all these patients who she's trying to help suddenly start eating people. And then she's faced with the internal dilemma of, obviously, her role is to look after people, to try and save people. Then she's literally stuck trying to save herself. To hell with the patients, basically, because they're all trying to kill her.
Right. Trying to eat her. And
yeah.
How does she figure that they're zombies and not just people with high on bath salts and some shit?
Well, it only becomes apparent down the line. I mean, initially, she just thinks it's some kind of demented cannibal, basically. And the term zombie, I was a bit reluctant to use the term zombie initially. And I spent the entire book calling them cannibals, lunatics, demented people. But then I just thought, halfway through, I thought, nah, what am I doing? At the end of the day, it's a zombie book. So
yeah,
people are going to know they're zombies. They're getting up from the ground, the guts are hanging out, they're walking along on broken legs and things, or shuffling along. They're decomposing, they're eating people, they're zombies. I kind of went back over to that after a while. but yeah, the initial, like I say, the initial perspective of both characters is that these are just, crazy people. The whole zombie aspect only comes into play when they actually see the dead getting back up and think, yeah, do you know what? It's clearly a zombie.
Yeah. Now, I was about to ask you, your zombies in your book, are they reanimated from the dead? Are they just people that are sick that are becoming cannibals?
Yeah. So, I mean, I put a lot of thought into it. End of the day, you can't escape the stereotype of zombies. If you go fast zombies, slow zombies, you go blue zombies, or you're going to conform to some stereotype somewhere along the line, because it has been done, obviously, in film and books to a certain extent. So I just stripped it all back, and I thought, you know what would scare the hell out of me? Forget what's been done in the past. What would actually be scary? And I thought to myself, your original Romero, Dawn of the Dead zombies shuffling along, yeah, fair enough, I can get that, but what's more scary is the remake when they're actually fast, or 28 days later, the ones that can run after you.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to, jump in and out of them. You're literally running for your life. And if they're faster than you, you're gone, basically.
Dawn of the Dead remake might be one of the best Zack Snyder films.
Yeah, yeah. At the minute, everyone's going on about the 4-hour what's it he's done at the minute, and I still have yet to see that.
What, the Zack Snyder cut?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I've seen it. It's long. It's long. I mean, if you really like comic book movies, then I guess you'll really love it. But when I watched it, by the time I got to it, I've been kind of burned down on them because they're very predictable. It's like, okay, man, I know the formula. I know what's going to happen here. But which kind of brings up with zombies, because a lot of people, of course, when they hear about zombie book, hear that we're talking about zombies, they'll be like, oh my God, again, more zombies. And how do you feel about that? Like what's your reaction to that when people say zombies are overdone?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can kind of agree in a way. To be fair, when I started writing the book, I didn't realize how overdone it had been, because I don't actually, in all honesty, I haven't read a great amount of zombie novels. There's been one or two that I've read, but it was only after I've published and I started, engaging with other writers, and I thought, holy shit, there's loads of zombies everywhere. There's books everywhere about it, and there's series, and there's 10-book series of it all. And for me, that was a big eye opener. Now, I hadn't read many books purposefully because I didn't want to be, inadvertently steering towards the tropes that I read in them books. I wanted to be try and get a creative mindset of my own. I didn't want to, be influenced by, external factors such as that. So I started reading a few more now, and I can see there are certain elements which overlap. But at the end of the day, zombies are fun. It is a fun genre to write in, and I can see why it's being done to the extent it has, because it's easy enough to do, and yeah, like I said, people do enjoy them. So
now, and how do you make your zombie story stand out with, compared to all the others?
Well, initially, I thought, like I said, the whole British take on it. I started writing the book back in, I think it was 2001, 2002, believe it or not. That's when I first started outlining it. So back then, I mean, you had the likes of 28 Days Later, which was obviously the British take of zombies. But other than that, to my knowledge at least, there wasn't a great deal of the British perspective. And I wanted to try and bring that in. And obviously waiting, I'm not good at maths, but 2002 to now, there's been a hell of a lot of change over that time. And there's been a hell of a lot more zombies coming out. But so my idea was to make it more a British spin on it. But I suppose at the same time, you've got the British aspect, the lack of guns, how they're going to survive. And then I'm relying solely on my character development. The idea of you're kind of behind a prisoner. He's not the nicest guy in the world, but do you have that internal conflict of, do you support him? Do you hope he dies? And yeah, that's something that's uncovered throughout the book. So I'm hoping from the character perspective, the unique settings that I bring in. And like I said, it's the unique twist I have on the zombies. I don't try to conform to, the stereotypes that have been adopted before, but like I say, you can't avoid all stereotypes, but I've tried my best to put a decent spin on it anyway.
Right. But when you say British version, or the British version of a zombie, I think Shaun of the Dead, that movie.
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead was
that's fun.
That was a I mean, like that was a good one. I've got to admit, it shows a British humour from the outset, and I do think there are elements of humour in the book that I've written as well, which shows you the British humour towards anything that we face. There's always an element of humour there that we use to get through things. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead was a turning point for.
You guys need to have a sense of humor with all the shit that's happening. I mean, of course, it's coming from an American. We got our own shit too. Our government sucks too, in many, many ways. Oh my God! But like, you know, when you're dealing with a government that's like being very authoritarian and kind of intruding in your lives and kind of giving you some bullshit, I'm sure you got to have a sense of humor to adapt and survive in that environment.
It's the age-old adage of laugh or cry, isn't it? At the end of the day, you got to have a sense of humor. You got to have a laugh. Otherwise, you know, you'll just go downhill. Yeah. Although, I mean, if you look at the Prime Minister we've elected, I mean, straight away, you've got to have a British sense of humour to elect somebody like that in the first place, not to get all political and things. Yeah. But, I mean, the guy's just funny. We're stuck with him. You just have a laugh, don't you?
He looks funny. I don't even know who he is, really. He just looks weird.
I mean, the look itself, it's just a funny look. But if you look at the things he's done in the past, he's just a comical character. I mean,
okay.
It's one of the things you're not going to be able to get through this unscathed, I think, are we? But I mean, if you do it laughing, at least you've got a smile on your face, haven't you? So can't complain.
I don't pay attention too much to UK politics, but isn't his name Boris or something?
Boris.
Even the name is silly. It's like, come on, man, come on.
Oh man,
looks
you
like
should see some
character.
of the things he's done. Before he became Prime Minister, I mean, you should see some of the things he's done. He's rugby tackled children in blooming charity games. He's gone zip lining down the middle of a street waving the British flag. He's done all sorts. He is quite a funny character. But yeah, like I said, I'm not one to get into politics. I don't really follow. I don't follow it myself, to be honest. It's just a case of.
Well, you are British, so I'm gonna have to ask this: how do you feel about the royal family? Are you allowed to comment on that?
It depends. If my readers are supporters of the royal family, then yeah, I love them. If people can't stand them, then yeah, I can't stand. Nah, to be fair, I mean, I'm not really a royalist. All this thing about them saying that they've had a hard life or what have you, there's been an interview. I don't follow any of it, to be fair.
Well, that's Merkel, right? That's the Americans saying she has had a hard life. Okay.
Yeah, that's something like that, isn't it? Yeah, I don't really follow them. To be fair, apparently they bring money into the country, and I'm all open for the argument for that. But yeah, it is what it is. At the end of the day, they're living in a massive palace. They get a lot of money.
They live in a massive palace, and when I hear a celebrity, especially an American celebrity, that's an actress, and they have crazy money, and they want to tell me how their life is miserable, I'm just like, bitch, I grew up in a trailer park. Shut up. It's like, come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you live growing up on council estates and stuff like that around here as well. You look at that and how can you complain?
Ketchup sandwiches. Okay? There's nothing to that. It's two pieces of bread and ketchup. It's nasty. Yeah. Not good, really.
Yeah. That's it. That's what we grew up on. Same here, but yeah. I'm not really a fan, to be honest, with the royal family. They bring in tourism, yeah, fair enough, but at the end of the day, is the Queen sat in her palace, or isn't she? Are the tourists still going to come and look at the palace? Of course they are, whether the Queen's there or not. So that's probably the answer there.
Yeah. Now, all right. So going back to the virus here. So in your book, the survivors have to depend on pretty much a prisoner for their survival. Okay.
Yeah. So he stumbles across a group. So he's trying to survive himself. He stumbles across people. Along the way, they see him for what he is, but at the end of the day, do you know what? He's a tough guy. We're not. Let's hang by him. And you see the dilemmas with the characters as well. Some of them don't like the idea of being stuck with a murderer, someone who's been put away for murder. Others are thinking, well, do you know what? He's keeping the zombies away, so let's just stick with him. And the characters are getting that conflict as well. So. Now he's pretty much thrust into a leadership role which he doesn't really want to adopt, because like I say, he cares for himself. Yeah, he cares for himself. That's about it. He's mainly wanting to survive, and you kind of get the feeling that he's going to use them as cannon fodder. Basically, he'll look after them until the shit hits the fan, and then it's going to be a case of there you go, zombies, have them.
that's the sort of mentality I would expect from a prisoner, especially a prisoner that doesn't play well with other prisoners.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
was he isolated? Was he in solitary confinement, or was he just like?
He
Like,
was,
what kind
yeah.
of prisoner
Funny
was he?
enough, there was so in the book there's organized fights basically, and that's actually coming off real life stories that happened in the UK prisons, where they did literally have fight clubs in these prisons, and it was actually drawn on that. Now these organized fights, one of them goes awry. There's all kind of things happening. All the fighters end up in solitary confinement, and it's why they survive basically, because when the rest of the prison's overrun, they're stuck in solitary. And then a guard comes to try and evacuate them, and that's how they managed to get out.
Okay.
So yeah, he's in solitary. He's in there with a bunch of other nasty people, being put away for a lot of horrible things, and then obviously they're released on the world, and then it kind of weighs up the options. Would you rather be with these demented sociopath or criminals, or would you go with the the zombies? You know where you stand, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, it does bring up a lot of like I say, a lot of dilemmas for the characters about who do you support, who do you go with, do you have a certain alliance with people, or do you just try to look after yourself? And I explore all of that in the book.
It makes things interesting too, because, all right, do they know what he's in prison for?
Yeah, eventually. They put two and two together. So the prison that he was in is a maximum security prison, which is a bit of an oxymoron when you consider how easy it is for him to escape. But it's a maximum security prison, so the worst of the worst people go there. To a well-known fact by the characters. So yeah, they know he's either going to be a rapist or a murderer, and he quickly corrects them. He says, basically, yeah, I'm a murderer. I've murdered people. So that's what you're stuck with, basically. So yeah, for them, they find out pretty much from the outset, but.
And it's like, what do you do in that situation? So the people that are in there with them, are they just like other prison? They're other guards, or I mean, how did are there people in there in this book that aren't like prisoners, aren't guards?
Yep. So,
like just innocent, I guess, civilians.
Yeah, the main character. So the main character is called Frank. So Frank, he's a prisoner. He escapes. He escapes with a bunch of other guys. They all go their separate ways.
Okay, gotcha.
And Frank stumbles across a farmhouse. His idea is to get as far away from the towns and cities as possible, get into the Yorkshire moors in the countryside, and hole up in a cottage. Basically, the idea being there's not going to be many out there. He stumbles across this cottage, this country farmhouse. Inside, there are a bunch of people who've already, secured the place. He makes his way in, and then lock the door behind him, and then it's a case of, oh great, we're stuck in with a murderer now.
Yeah, right.
Are we safer inside or outside?
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too. I mean, because a guy like him, a guy who is cold-hearted and willing to murder people, before an outbreak came, I mean, he for what it's worth, I mean, has what it takes to, I guess, rise to become an alpha, so to speak, because it's like he's going to be the dominant one, unless they can overpower him.
Yeah, there is that element, and the whole thing I wanted to explore, from the character's point of view, is, and from the reader's perspective as well, is which one would you feel more comfortable with? You've got the zombies out there, yeah, they kill you, they eat you, but you know where you stand with them. If you see one, they're going to try and kill you. Yeah. With the likes of Frank being the criminal, is he looking out for you? Is he trying to kill you? Is he trying to trick you into things? You've got the mental element to deal with as well. So yeah, you've got that kind of dilemma there. Do you go with what you know? Do you know where not safe, but do you go with what you know, or do you stick with somebody who you don't know but potentially are safer? So.
A couple of years ago, when this show was called the Dead Man's Tone podcast, I actually had a guest on the show. He was in prison for murder. He was doing the show with a phone he snuck in through his ass, pretty much. More or less.
Nice.
But after talking to him, it really kind of put perspective, because he was a murderer because of something he did right when he was like 18. It was between him and some other dope slinger, a drug dealer type dude. And it was like, okay, he killed him like with his bare hands. He went too far, kicking his ass. All right. So the reason I'm talking about this is, just because someone's in prison for murder, what kind of murder are we talking about? Are we talking about like a series of murders? We're talking like he's killing kids? Are we talking about like he's taking out some trash? Like, what kind of murder is this Frank guy?
So Frank basically he comes home one night to find his wife banging a young lad from next door, basically. Fit of rage, he goes down, gets a hammer, comes back up, beats her to death, beats the other guy. He thought he killed the other guy. Guy survives. So Frank gets put away for the murder of his wife, basically. And when he's questioned about it down the line in the book, he just openly says, "Yeah, I'll do it again." He says he does regret killing her initially, saying that he'd much rather her survive to live the outbreak so that he could watch her get eaten alive, basically ripped to pieces. That's kind of his outlook, basically. And while he's in there, when he finds out that the guy who was obviously shafting his wife, when he finds out that he survived, he arranges a hit from inside the prison. There's a guy in there who's a gang lord type thing. He runs half the country it's basically a gang, and he arranges for the hit. But then he becomes in this guy's debt, so that's why he's in the fight club. Basically, he has to fight to pay off his debt to this guy who arranged a hit on young Casanova, who was getting a bit romantic with his wife. He's quite open about it. He's an open book. He basically tells people who ask, "Yeah, I murdered my wife. Yeah, I'll do it again. I'd happily do it again, and I don't have any qualms killing, you guys either." So he is quite an open book.
If I came home and caught my wife fucking some other guy, would I kill her? Well, I guess for the optics, I guess I should not answer that question, but I wouldn't. You made an oath when you got married. You broke that oath.
Exactly that. I mean, he goes on to say as well, somebody asks him, well, did you not try to plead, diminished responsibility, that your mind just went and that you went a bit crazy at the time? And he just turned on and says, no. He said, I walked back downstairs, I got my hammer, found the best one I could, came back up, and then, smashed her head in, basically.
I mean,
so
yeah, she cucked him. She had sex with some other dude in their marital bed. So yeah. I mean, some people would say they would disavow, but you know what? Buy that guy a beer. It was the optics of it. Look, I would feel safe around him if during a zombie apocalypse. Like, I wouldn't think he's gonna kill me because I'm not the one who fucked his wife, and I'm not his wife. So he probably doesn't take shit though. If I try to bust his balls, better
well, that's it. I mean, he has a bit of a mindset change when he's in the prison. Obviously, he's indebted to this boss of the gang type thing, the local gangs and stuff. He's indebted to him, so he tries to. Anytime he tries to rise up to him, he's going to get shot back down. But when they get out, and there's the two of them out there, he basically just turns into a different person. Says, "I'm no longer indebted to you. You're on your own." That kind of thing. I won't hesitate to kill you, basically. And that's that kind of the mindset shift of when he's obviously institutionalized when he's out there.
Oh yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, because prison life is tough.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, don't you? I suppose. I mean, what you just brought up there about how buy the guy a beer, killing his missus, she was shafting another guy. That's probably one of the first things that the readers are going to have from a dilemma point of view. You're going to have some who support it, you're going to have some who think that's absolutely horrendous. And yeah, like I said, there's loads of different moral dilemmas all the way through the book that present themselves in that way and think, do you really want to support this guy? Do you not? And again, it depends on the reader, really. So yeah, I think different people are going to interpret the book in different ways.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's good for them. That's like in books and movies, TV shows, whatever, when you have complicated characters that do things that are morally, legally incorrect, but yet there's still enough room where somebody can be like, maybe he's not that bad. Have a flawed character. Those sorts of guys, those characters, they're the ones that people will actually connect with. I mean, like a Tony Soprano from Sopranos, like, oh, he was a monster. He did all sorts of bad stuff. But there was still that human side of him. You saw that, when he talked with his family, how he managed with his son and with his wife and this therapist. It's like, oh, man, you see a human element to him.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that's some of the things I try to explore in in the book. I mean, there's one person in particular. He's just a complete psychopath. He just kills people for the enjoyment of it. But Frank, he's more of a case of he'll do what he needs to do, but in order to survive. So I mean, you do see different elements of different characteristics in different people. I think each reader will have a different favourite character. Everyone will get behind different ones. Whether they go on to survive is another thing, but you got to hedge your bets on some people, don't you? So
yeah. Okay, so we got the badass prisoner dude. What are the other characters we got? Do we got? I'm just gonna take a guess here. Wild stab in the dark. Is there? Every horror movie, sometimes in horror books, you're going to have the one trope, the one female that's a little bit loose, a little bit sexually liberated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, there is one of those in there as well.
And how does Frank feel about that?
Frank's over the moon with that. He's been away for such a long time. But
he's the one fucking her.
He's quite happy with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, what if she was fucking some other guy, though?
Oh, well... Yeah, that's something we can explore later on. I mean, she is, like you say, a bit sexually liberated, but at the same time, she's also got a bit of a dark side to her. She knows things where you think, how do you know that? She knows how to wire a car, for instance, and ends up stealing cars. She knows where to find guns, and she knows a bit too much, and you think, is there a bit of a backstory there? It's not just a case of a character there just for sex and stuff like that. She does actually have a integral part to the plot.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, couldn't resist. The poor lad's been away for 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it is in the book. He needs a bit of downtime, doesn't he?
Let's see. Now for this book, like, did you do a lot of research as far as like prison life in the UK? Like, you mentioned fight clubs and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of that. Like I say, I discovered the fight clubs accidentally when I was just doing my research. Apparently, there was organised fights that some of the corrupt guards at the time were actually wagering on, and there was a big inquest into it. And I thought, you know what, it's quite a good idea for the story. It'll fit well. So I did borrow certain elements of that. But just prison life in general. It requires a lot of research into things like who's in there, what kind of sentences are people going to be getting in that kind of environment, even down to the things, what do they wear, what do they eat, what kind of stuff do they have available to them. There was quite a bit, and then the layout of the prison as well. Mm-hmm. I had to try and obviously work out all of that in order to describe it. There was quite a bit, and then the other side of the story, the hospital aspect. I was lucky enough to work in the hospital at the time, so I knew the layouts of hospitals and stuff and that kind of thing, so I could draw my own experience there with that aspect. So it was, a lot of research involved, a lot of stuff I had to look into.
So I'm curious about the sort of gangs and who they are, what they do, kind of like in the UK prison. Like, you got like Aryan Brotherhoods, you got Muslim Brotherhoods. I mean, like, what you got in there?
Yeah, I mean, there are elements of that in there, I think. But it depends on the prison when I was looking at different ones. I mean, some of them, for your low crime, your low level crime, your stuff where you're in there for a couple of months, you're out again. Yeah. I mean, not so much, but when you're in there for a lengthy spell of time, that's when you do start getting your divisive sects and stuff and your different groups of people and so on. So, yeah, I mean, we do have elements of that here as well. I did draw on it a little bit in the book, not too much, but enough to get a bit of diversity going in there. So it's not just one main mold of a character who I've just replicated. I've got quite a diverse range in there. We do have some of that here.
Man. See, now I'm thinking, if I went to prison for life, who would I group with for survival? Like, it was like, if it was American History X, you ever seen the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, if it was American History X and I wasn't a Nazi, who would I join with for survival? Because what are the groups available? I mean, I'd be like, well, I'm just going to try to like mind my own business. I don't know. Try not to get raped.
And see how long it lasts, I guess. But yeah, I think it all depends on the prison. I mean, some have bigger reputations than others of ones that you want to avoid. You don't want to end up in there. But yeah, it is what it is. I think it's just a look at the draw, really, wherever you get put, and obviously the crime you commit as well.
Yeah. Okay. Bronx Beats in the chat, and he asked the question. I asked this question a lot too. What is your favorite horror movie and why?
It's a hard question, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, one of the first horror movies I ever saw was when The Lost Boys came out, and that was when I got shown that by my older brother. So that was pretty much one of the first horror movies I saw, and that one stuck with me just for the nostalgia. Really, I could watch that again and again. I mean, that is a cracking vampire film in my book.
It's a good one.
Yeah. From a zombie perspective, I mean, with the theme of the book, let's just think of zombies. I do think, obviously, the Dawn of the Dead remake is up there. It is a pretty good remake, that one. And then you've got 28 Days Later, which, whether is it zombie? Yes, no, that's debatable. But yeah, I'd say that'll be up there as well for me, just purely for the entertainment factor. It's good to see a British twist for once on how the British cope. Basically, it's not just a case of getting a gun and then just blowing them all to bits. It's a case of run.
Right.
Not a great deal else you can do. Just run.
I think putting a British twist, a British perspective on it would make things a little bit more interesting as far as difficulty, because like if a zombie outbreak took place in Texas, everyone pretty much has a shotgun. They have their weapons. They have their weapons.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's not the zombies you'd have to worry about. It's just the other people. Because after then, it's like, okay, now we need to form little clans. It'd be families, it'd be street blocks,
Yeah.
We get stuff.
I mean, one of the things I found was I originally started with the idea of not getting guns at all. Just thought, purely British twist. And like I say, we do have guns here, but...
Have you ever seen the movie Train to Busan?
Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? It's quite a good one, I think.
I think also they had the limitations of firearms because they didn't have any firearms. It's like South Korea. I don't know if they have. I don't think they have gun laws there. I don't think they're allowed to have guns there. I'm not sure what the laws are. Probably pretty strict. No. But they didn't have any weapons. Just their bare hand. The guy was literally punching zombies in the face. I was like, oh shit, this movie's good.
Yeah,
that motherfucker's tough. That's a tough motherfucker right there. All right.
It's an interesting take, isn't it? It is an interesting take on it. But I started writing it with the idea I'm not going to have guns in it at all. But it got to the point where there's only so many times you can hit zombies with like your gardening tools. I wanted to branch out a bit. And like I say, we do have gun shops around here. We have like hunting shops when the hunts are on and things. So I did incorporate a little bit of that in there as well, just to make it mix up a bit. I mean, you can only hit a zombie so many times with a spade, and make it interesting, can't you? So, yeah.
Yeah, you have to change it up somehow. Different tools, different stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
There's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of that.
Okay, and that's something. Some good picks there. Like Dawn of the Dead, that remake, great opening, great freaking opening, powerful. Like immediately you're in there. I don't think there's anyone who. I don't think I've heard anyone say that opening sucks. Unless they don't care for running zombies. Zombies don't run, which is like, okay, come on. Yeah. The dead doesn't come back to life either, but let's not debate about that.
Yeah. I mean, I love the original Dawn of the Dead to an extent, but if you think about it, if you're in that situation, as long as you haven't got a broken leg, you're not going to get bit, are you? You're just going to just shuffle around them. They're not going to be able to get you quickly. I think the speed of them adds another element of fear almost. You need to be quick. You need to get out of there. So for me, that's one of the things that works about that remake. But I mean, let's face it, remakes don't tend to work, do they? In the horror genre, if you think about all the remakes that have come out, repeating constantly all these different movies and say, he's the remake of the remake and so on. I mean, don't get me wrong, you do get the odd one or two that work, but the vast majority of the time you can't beat the original, can you? So.
Oh, and there's a thing we were going to talk about that we haven't touched on yet, and that's because your book it's self-published, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's self-published, and how do you feel about that? I mean, there's people who look at self-published works like, oh, it's trash. do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean that was my initial thought. It's a case of, oh look, it's been self-published, it's going to be rubbish, isn't it? But I mean, looking into it, there's so many self-published authors who have a massive following, and they are making a fair bit of money from it, to the point where they're able to quit their day job and actually write for a living. And that's all through just being self-published. But for me, I think the whole traditional publishing industry, they don't look at horror as being a viable product unless you've got a big name to hide behind, or to attach to your book. If you're an upcoming author, you're not going to get far in horror, as far as my perspective, at least. Anyway, right. I mean, looking at different publishers and what they will and won't accept, there's a lot of them that say they don't accept the likes of horror, sci-fi, or fantasy. For the reasons being that, obviously, unless you're a big name, it doesn't sell, allegedly. So, I mean, for me, I didn't really want to go down that route. I wanted more control over my work. I didn't want people saying, well, you can't say that, you can't say this, it's not politically correct and all that. I wanted to be able to write the book that I wanted to write and just not have any limitations with that, really. So I didn't actually pursue traditional publishing as such. I think I might have put one query letter into one publisher, I think. But yeah, I might have done that initially back in 2000 and God knows whenever I started writing the book. But after that, I just think, you know what, I'm just going to go on the publishing route, self-publishing route, sorry. So, yeah.
I mean, the benefit that you have with self-publishing is that you don't have to worry about the gatekeepers saying no to your book. And when they say no, when the gatekeepers, I'm talking about traditional publishers, when they say no, they're not always saying no because of quality. They might say no because they're full, no because of, let's face it, I'm not going to turn this into some risky, this might open a can of worms, but because of, especially now, diversity. Okay, are you gay? Are you gay enough? I've had I have a gay author friend, Leo X Robertson. He mentioned that he's a gay dude and he writes stories sometimes with a gay character, or whatever. And they'll be like, these characters aren't gay enough. It's like, what? It's fucked up. But so my point is, they have all these criterias and check boxes that they need to check off before they even consider it, and you may not even match it. And it's like, okay, they're playing that game. Then you know what? I'll just publish it on my own. And when you do that, of course, you have to do pretty much all the work, the cover, the marketing, all of it, and you have to make sure it is good, at least good enough for it to actually start, getting some traction and getting some movement there.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, the amount of time potentially wasted by emailing all these different publishers that putting query letters in, and then the request, your first couple of chapters, you send that in, they say no, you move on to the next one, and you've got a big list, you're working your way down. I mean, you're talking the amount of time you could potentially waste in submitting it as well. Mm-hmm. You kind of weigh it up, don't you? And then even if one of them does accept the work, you've spent all that time contributing to it, and then even then, a lot of them still require you to promote it. You can't just sit back and say, well, there's my book, you guys promote it, and I'll just sit back and see the money. A lot of the publishers will say you need to actively promote your book, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I mean, you do a lot of that anyway with your self-publishing aspect. But yeah, like I say, it was the one I preferred. I think when I was weighing up the two options, it was the one that seemed better for me, really.
And haven't gone this route. I mean, I'm looking at your book right now on Amazon, and it's ranked 80 in British horror fiction. So it's within the top 100 in British horror fiction. So that's pretty good. It's not bad. It looks like it's been selling, just based on the number. I mean, I can assume that it's been selling a fair number of copies. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been doing well. It's I mean, I think you find that for the opening of any novel, really, don't you? You find the first couple of days you might get quite a few substantial sales. And then you get into the profits of maybe triple figures, and then as soon as the triple figures hit, they starting to dwindle down a little bit, and then suddenly you see a shoot back up again. But yeah, it did really well when it first came out. I think it has been falling down the rankings recently. I haven't checked it but I mean, that's when you start the whole marketing thing, isn't it? You start marketing it and doing your paid ads and so on. I need to start looking into all of that. So yeah, it is what it is. And for a first book, I mean, I think it's been doing all right. I intend to to potentially go on to write a sequel to it based on feedback I've been given. People asking when's the next book coming out, is it going to be a series, how many books are you going to do? And for me, I didn't even consider that at first. So I mean, it's starting to get the cogs whirring now. I'm starting to think about that now. So I mean, yeah, when the next one comes out, the first one probably going to start getting more sales and so on, and then the next book, and then that tends to be how it works, doesn't it?
Right.
So.
Oh, and
yeah, it's been...
David McKay says in the chat, it's not even 8. I need a coffee. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm drinking this Monster. Hopefully it helps. Even in the beginning of the stream, you could see it. I had the title from the previous one. I was like, oh my god, I didn't even do that. Oh man, it's rough. But so far, this has been fun. This has been really good. This is good stuff. Now I'm gonna ask, because a good person to ask. You went the self-publishing route, and your book's doing pretty well. Are there any certain tricks or things you're doing when it comes to marketing? Are you like really busy on social media? Are there different sort of like memes or little images you make to kind of like help promote it?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I mean, social media is obviously the key. You need to be able to interact with people, especially from a self-publishing point of view. If you don't interact, no one knows about your book really. So I mean, I've tried to interact with people, engage, see what people are into, and in the lead up to my book as well, I was asking, what kind of things do people look for in a book? What kind of things do you look for in a zombie novel? And if they happen to say, you know what, I like fast zombies, I like realistic scenarios, that kind of thing. I'll say, well, you know what, my book's coming out in a few weeks. Have a look, you might like it, and that kind of thing. So it interacting with people that way, it does tend to work. I've had a lot of, I didn't realize how big the zombie community was, of people who love the zombie genre, and I've started interacting with people within those groups, and the feedback I've got and the support I've got has been unbelievable. I couldn't anticipate getting that many people on board with wanting to read my book, but I put the blurb out there, I put the cover out there, everyone's loving the cover. They all say, yeah, really good synopsis, really good idea, would love to read the book. And I sent the first couple of chapters out to people on the lead up to it as well, just to get a bit of feedback really, to make sure that it was going to be something that people are into. And the vast majority of them all said, you know what, tell me when the book comes out, because I want to buy it based on that.
And so, that's good. Especially when you're sharing in groups like that, you have something good when they're not kicking you out for promotion and advertising. Some of those groups are kind of they're weird about that, right? You see other people promote stuff, other people advertise, but sometimes when you do, it's like, oh, we're gonna kick you out. We don't do that here. It's like, what are you talking about? Everybody does that shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. I can see to an extent where they're coming from. I mean, you go onto Facebook, you go scrolling down, you see the same ad over and over again that's been posted in every single page. I can see that. I mean, I'd never be excessive. I'd never spam to an extent. Say, look, buy my book every single day. But I don't know. I just look out for the posts where people are asking, what books have you got out? Share of our readers. So I jump on those and say, yep, straight away, this is my book. Feel free to go buy it. So I look out for things like that. Really, I don't want to come across as someone who's overbearing and say, look, buy this book. It is what it is. I just try to market it as best I can.
Okay. And once again, guys, I have it on the screen so that way you can see it. It's The Virus by Damien Lee. Cool name, very sinister. Works well with horror. Yeah, it's like 4.5 stars, 4.7 stars. Okay, yeah. And if you like, I know some people may not like zombie stories because zombie stories are maybe saturated, but if you like the ones that aren't pussified by family drama and emo stuff, this sounds like more your speed. It's more like, okay, it's dealing with some real situations.
Yeah. And it's available on Kindle Unlimited as well for free. So if you've got that, crack on, jump on it while it's free.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh, you put in the Kindle Unlimited thing?
Yeah, so Kindle Unlimited. So it's I'm getting quite a few reads on that. To be fair, loads of people have been going on it, reading through on there.
Yeah.
So
and that stuff adds up. Yeah. That stuff does indeed add up. In fact, I think I make a little bit more from that, for the page reads, than I do from the purchases. It depends on which book and all, but yeah. So I think the takeaway is that if you do this, make sure you're constantly busy marketing. And just so that people understand, when I say constantly busy, like how much time in a day would you say you put into like marketing your book?
Well, I mean, with us being in lockdown, there's not a great deal else to do, so I can pretty much spend every day just, plugging out or going on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. But it's not just a case of marketing; it's just a case of engaging as well. Just getting to know people, getting to know potential readers. It's not just a case of going on to try and speak to someone.
Wait, you mean you actually have to talk to people? You can't just.
Oh yeah,
you can't just put a post.
Oh. No, I mean at the end of the day, I don't really go on there just purely to market. I do want to engage with people and get to know people. Because I mean, in the long run, especially over offers as well, you start reading their stuff and you think, you know what, pretty good. That's pretty good work. You engage with them, and you get collaborations down the line. You get to share work. You get to promote each other's stuff. So it's not just a case of going on trying to find potential readers. It's literally networking as well, networking with different people, and just trying to bounce off each other to get things moving really. So.
Okay. Well, like I said, guys. The Virus by Damien Lee. Go check it out on Amazon. One of the last questions I have for you here is, do you have anything else in the work? Anything that you're working on right now? Maybe another novel, short story?
Yeah, so I've, to be fair, I've got lots of ideas bouncing around. I mean, I had an idea for my next novel after this one, but given the feedback and the messages of support I've received and people asking when's your next book in this series going to come out, I've decided to shelve that and just go for a potential sequel to The Virus. So I'm working on that at the minute. Got a few ideas bouncing around. Once I start actively, writing it, talking about maybe summertime, towards the end of summer, maybe towards middle of the year, maybe I should hopefully try and get something out again for the next one. So yeah, hopefully I'll have a sequel coming up pretty soon as well.
Now, have you ever read Dying Days by Armand Rosamilia?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the zombie books I've read, yeah. Great author, I think. Armand, yeah.
I was thinking that when it comes to sequels, this guy doesn't play it around. Like, that book has 9 sequels. Like, if people want it, he'll write another one. I'm surprised it stopped at 9. But, I mean, if people like The Virus and they want another one, give it to them. Give it to them. Especially, hey, if you like writing it, it's your story. Shit.
Yeah.
You'd be a fool not to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I left it, there's potential for a sequel, or there's potential to leave it as it is. You could go either way with it. But yeah, I mean, like I say, the ideas are bouncing around at the minute, so hopefully I'll start getting something put together real soon.
Okay. All right. Well, Damien Lee, it was great having you on Hard Talk Radio. I will open this up for callers. It's kind of early for me to really function, all that stuff. But in the future Hard Talk Radio episodes, I'll definitely be more, I guess, active as far as getting callers on and all that stuff. I'll be doing that stuff because that's the direction of this show. That's what I want to move it into. That's the talk radio part of it that still hasn't really been implemented yet. Anyway, Damien Lee, it's great having you on the show. Guys, you made it this far, press the like button, share, and subscribe, especially watching live this early in the morning. And thank y'all so much. Y'all take it easy.